Have you ever wanted to stick a massive sword twice the size of your body into the back of a fire-breathing T-Rex? Well, then Monster Hunter World might be the game for you. I know I'm like 4 hours late to the party here, sorry, but in 2018 I was too busy failing discrete mathematics and being a plat Reddit Lucio to buy a new $60 game. So I waited 4 years and bought it for $15. But Capcom is probably still going to get $60 from me eventually because this game is amazing, and if the Iceborn DLC doesn't go on sale soon, I'm going to end up paying $40 for the DLC for a game I paid $15 for. But I digress. I jumped into this game pretty much blind. I'd never played any Monster Hunter game before, and although my stream chat gave me a few tips here and there, they were pretty good about not backseat gaming and didn't spoil anything for me, so I really appreciate that. Love you guys. The premise of the game is that you are a silent monster hunter from the 5th Fleet who just came over to the New World to hunt monsters. I said silent because although the voice acting in this game isn't really exactly top tier, I enjoyed the cutscenes, and for some reason you have a sidekick, we'll call her Freckles since none of the NPCs have names either, and she pretty much speaks for you. All your character does is give a few stern nods here and there. Anyways, you get to the New World and you start hunting monsters. There's actually quite a bit more to the story, but to avoid spoilers, that's all the necessary background for now. Because per the name, that's what you do in this game. You hunt monsters. Big surprise. But what if I told you that this monster hunting was one of the best PvE experiences that I've ever had in any game? To be fair, I've never played any Soulsborne games, which are really known for their PvE as well. It's on my list, but the bosses and interactions in this game blew me away. There are 14 different weapon types, and most of them require a very different playstyle, which I think is really cool. As a new player, it never felt like there was a right way to do things. Sure, as a massive sword wielder, I struggled a bit with bosses that like to fly all over the damn place, but I completed the game with only a greatsword. I did play around with some of the other weapons, but every main boss I beat with the greatsword. It felt like every weapon had its pros and cons. I'm sure this is where experienced players will pipe in the comments and talk about how the longsword or some other weapon is OP. Have at it. But let me use the greatsword as an example. The greatsword is a very slow, very powerful weapon. It deals a lot of damage, but attacking gets you animation locked for a long time, so you have to be quite careful and time your attacks properly because most of the bosses can one-shot you with a combo if you're caught off guard. So although I was initially attracted to the greatsword because, big sword cool, big sword awesome, big sword give me dopamine, I eventually found the in-depth fights to be really fun because unlike my expectations, you're not just beating the shit out of dinosaurs with massive swords. I found myself in the late game dodging, running around looking for the perfect opportunity to strike, finding it, and executing a big combo for massive damage, and to me that was so awesome. However, when is the perfect opportunity to strike? This is where I give massive creativity points to Monster Hunter for. With enough experience, you can actually read the monster's behavior, well, like a hunter. This didn't click with me until I realized that the game is called Monster Hunter, not Monster Fighter. You track the monsters through their habitat, and in the fight you can read their behavior and try to predict what their next move is going to be. Again, no spoilers, but some bosses even have special mechanics that you can interact with. Like, I don't want to give any spoilers, but a simple example would be like, after tracking a certain monster for a while, the research team back at the base finds that the monster tail is poisonous. So if you cut off the tail, it can no longer poison you. Stuff like that. There's things that you can interact with directly to, manipulate certain mechanics or even prevent them. It's really cool. I really loved that the interactions from monster to monster were really unique. Every monster felt like a fresh fight, and again, without spoilers for the 5th time this video, for the experienced players watching, I found all the fights between Teostra, Valhazak, and Kushala Daora to be very unique fights despite them coming at the same point in the game progression-wise. And by the way, if you're watching this and you get to playing the game, those fights were amazing. Speaking of progression, let's talk about progression. The progression system on the surface is pretty simple. There's an upgrade path for your weapons and different types of armor that you can make. You go kill monsters and use the bones, fangs, teeth, hides, etc. of the massive dinosaur you just killed to make a new sword, or a ranged weapon, I guess, if you're a pussy. It's a pretty cool concept. It even gets more interesting when you have just some materials for the next weapon in your progression, but some of the other materials just have a bunch of question marks, meaning you haven't discovered or fought the creature before, so you're out exploring, just wondering if the next monster you run into is going to be the thing that you need to kill for to upgrade your weapon. Overall, the system is pretty cool, but I do have some issues with it. Firstly, for a new player, it can be quite difficult to figure out what the numbers mean, and the interfaces felt a little bit cluttered and chaotic at times. For example, I initially thought that affinity had some kind of interaction with elemental damage just based on the name. It sounded like it made sense, and also it was listed right next to the elemental damage, but in reality, it's just sort of like crit chance, Or what exactly does attack mean? Like, yeah, attack is damage, I figured that part out, but how is it applied? My sword has like 960 attack, but my hits range from like 80-ish to 350-ish with a nice big charged attack. So, what actually determines the damage calculations? Overall, I'd say the damage and the numbers just seem a little bit unintuitive and kind of hard to figure out without using outside information like a wiki. My biggest gripe, however, with the progression system actually has to do with the Iceborn DLC, which this review isn't including. Sub and leave a comment below if you'd like to see a review of that. It would be a separate video, however. But when the Iceborn DLC was released, so was a new set of armor and weapons into the base game called the Defender set. Basically, the Iceborn DLC adds more content to the end of the base game, so the Defender set is an overpowered set of gear designed for experienced players to be able to skip through the base game quickly and easily on a new character to be able to play the DLC content faster. That's how it was explained to me anyways in comments and on Reddit and whatnot. The problem with this, however, is that these weapons are available to everyone, even if you don't own the Iceborn DLC like me. And again, the equipment interface is a little bit overwhelming at first, so as a new player, I just looked at the weapons I could make or had available and said, okay, this Defender Greatsword has the highest attack out of any weapons I have available at the moment, so I guess I'll use that, not knowing that it would actually ruin the progression and the challenge of the game for me if I would continue down that tree. I was actually really fortunate to have Twitch chat tell me not to use them, but as a new player, how else are you supposed to know not to use this without outside resources? In my opinion, this is a pretty big oversight. I understand that 2 to 4 years after the release of a game, you might not be expecting new players, but it really can ruin the new player experience. I don't understand why, firstly, that these weapons are available to players who don't own the DLC. That doesn't really make any sense to me. If that's what they're intended for, then they should only be available to players who own the DLC. However, that may not be a good solution either, as a new player might just buy the bundle right away, so I think that making the Defender weapons less intuitive defined might be the solution. Or maybe, let me hop in my time machine real quick to the 90s and early 2000s, but I think something like this could be a really good use case for like a cheat code. Remember those guys? But just an idea, but maybe if a cheat code were used where if an experienced player would like to, they can input a code that they maybe know from experienced players or on a wiki somewhere to give access to the set without presenting it to the player right out of the gate. Sure, if someone went out of their way, they could still use it as a new player if they wanted to, but at least that's on them and they aren't just stumbling into these overpowered weapons accidentally. TLDR on the progression system, I think with some tweaking, the progression system could enhance the gameplay experience a lot better. So, I'm going to add a new section to these reviews that I'm going to call Game Feel. A lot of reviewers talk about graphics, sound, etc., maybe story design, things that get you immersed into the game, but I personally don't like to isolate these things as I feel like woven together, they really contribute to the immersion as a whole. Anyways, game feel. This game feels amazing to play. Just as every monster is very unique in mechanical design, they are also very unique visually and thematically as well. For the 36th time in this video, no spoilers, but the creative design of some of the monsters in the late game absolutely blew me away. When I hear the word monster, I kind of picture something like this, or like this, but the designs in the very late game surprised the hell out of me with their creativity. My favorite creature thematically for the experienced players is Teostra. I'll show a clip at the end of the video maybe for those who don't mind spoilers, but the design of that creature absolutely blew my mind. The fights themselves feel so awesome. Like, check out this clip of this combo that I pulled off. Nice. There's our Diablos investigation that we're looking for. Nice! Fuck yeah. Oh, yeah, you cannot handle it, Diablos. Senor. Pulling off a successful combo feels so satisfying and rewarding, not only through the damage numbers, but it just feels so good. The audio and visual feedback from pulling off, a successful combo is so good. Honestly, when I play this game, I feel like I'm like an 8-year-old kid. Like, the sequence of events in a fight feels like something that 8-year-old me would come up with. So there's this fire-breathing T-Rex, and I jumped on his back, and I stabbed him in the back of the head, and I pulled out my giant sword, and I stabbed him in the back, and he fell down. Like, I can totally see my 8-year-old self, like, making up this story in my head about my T-Rex little action figure, but that's, like, actually what I did in the game, and it feels just as cool as it sounds. As I briefly stated earlier, I personally really enjoyed the cutscenes and the story as well. It's not really the highlight of the game, to be honest, but it felt like a nice break. Like, when you get through a big boss, and then you kind of, learn a little bit about the story, and you get to listen to the commander talk for a little bit while you take a break, it kind of fit the pacing well, I would say. However, I think if I were to make one improvement to the feeling of the game, I'd like there to be more variety and more theming when it comes to the soundtrack when fighting bosses. It felt a little bit vanilla. The background music for most bosses is the same, or at least has the same feel to it, and I think it could be even more immersive with some more thematic music. The sound effects design, however, still fulfills that kid fantasy, if you ask me. Nice. There's our Diablos investigation that we're looking for. So yeah, for $15 on sale, 100% pick up Monster Hunter World if you haven't played it already. 8.5 Ranarrs out of 10. Please sub and leave a comment below if you'd like to see me review the Iceborn DLC and or any other Monster Hunter games. And oh yeah, spoiler alert, but coming up here, this is the clip that made me fall in love with the design of Teostra. Like, the design is so unique, I feel like. Yeah, anyways, thank you for watching if you made it this far, and have a good one. Hey, post-production dealer here. Look at this crazy fire griffin with these blue eyes. I love this design. It's so cool. Hey, real quick, if you're watching this on the day of the release, I'm going to be streaming Iceborn, trying it out for the first time, 4 hours after this video goes live at 2 p.m. Central Time. So come by and check it out. I'm also going to throw in a few of my favorite clips from my Monster Hunter streaming adventure at the end here, so enjoy. Using a bow, you can run away and hit him? Yeah, bows are for pussies, though. What do I look like? Some kind of bitch? Hell no. I'm gonna fight this massive fire-breathing dinosaur toe-to... Because he can't, like, go... Oh, he can! Oh, shit. Okay. Fucking amphibian T-Rex over here. Whoop. I'm just gonna mine you guys. Oh shit, what is he? He's all red now. Oh my god!